Very good morning, students, and welcome to the digital classroom of General Science. Dear students, today we are going to start with the last lesson of our science syllabus, lesson number 20, in the world of stars. So, after the explanation of this lesson, in the next video lecture, I'll be sending you the workbook exercise of the same lesson, and after that, we will be able to complete the syllabus and then we will start with the revision. So, let's start with the last lesson in the world of stars. Now, in this lesson, we are going to study about the life cycle of the star. The star is born from the interstellar clouds, and from these interstellar clouds or the nebula, the stars are born. Now, the stars are born due to two processes, as you can see in the picture. In the first one, a huge explosion takes place in the ordinary star and it becomes red in size due to very low temperature, and the size increases up to 100 to 200 times of the ordinary star. And thus, in this stage, it is called as red giant star. And then the outer envelope of this star is thrown out and the inner part, it starts contracting and it becomes almost the same size as of the earth. Now, as the mass is much higher than that of the earth, the mass of the star is much higher than that of the earth, but the size is similar to that of the earth, and thus the density of the star is very high. Now, in this stage, the pressure in the star becomes independent of the temperature, and thus it is able to maintain the balance with the gravitational force. Now, here the star looks very small, that is, the size becomes very small, and due to its size, it is called as white dwarf. Okay. Then in the next one you can see, in this also, the ordinary star, it undergoes to the stage of red giant superstar, right? And then a size increases and a huge explosion takes place, which is called as supernova explosion. Now, this explosion is very, very powerful and it gives out the energy in such a huge amount that this star is visible at daytime also. Now, the central portion of the supernova explosion, after the supernova explosion, the central portion of the star, it becomes very small, and in this state, the stars are completely made up of neutrons, and thus they are called as neutron star. And in the neutron star stage, the temperature is capable of balancing the gravitational force, and thus neutron star is the end stage of the star. Now, at times what happens, after the supernova explosion, the pressure is not able to balance the gravitational force, and thus it continuously contracts. Now, because of this contraction, the size becomes very, very small and its density increases, as well as the gravitational force also increases. And then whatever objects are nearby these stars, they are attracted towards these stars and the light stops coming out of these stars. They are not reflected, and thus we cannot see the star at all. Instead, the end stage is called as a black hole because we are not able to see the star, we are only able to see the black hole. So this is all about the life cycle of the star. Next, sky watching. Have you ever heard of sky watching, students? Yes, sky watching means we have to be in an open space. We have to stand in an open space, and when we look at the sky, but the condition is that it should be a cloudless night, then only we will be able to have the sky watching. Now, if we see the exact location of the zenith or the nadir or the horizon, we can understand these things with the help of this picture. Now, if we look at the sky, at some place we feel that the sky is touching the ground, right? So that line where we feel that the sky is touching the ground is called as the horizon. Okay. And when we turn around, we will see that horizon is seen as a circle. And when we look at the sky at the top, we feel that it is a circle, and the stars and the planets, they move in the sky, and this virtual sphere is called as the celestial sphere. You know, celestial bodies means the bodies which are there in the space. They are called as celestial space bodies. Now, because of this, the horizon divides into two halves. Right? Now, the first is zenith. Now, what is zenith? When we stand on the ground, the point on the celestial sphere exactly above our head is called as zenith. As you can see, that girl is standing, and exactly on the top of her head, the point is called as zenith. And the point just below our feet, exactly below our feet, is called as nadir. So nadir and zenith are just opposite to each other. Then comes the celestial poles. Now, if, as I said, that it is a celestial sphere, if we extend the axis of the earth in north and south direction, they penetrate through the celestial sphere at the point which are called as North Pole and the South Pole respectively. As you can see in the lower picture, if we extend the axis of the earth in north and south direction, we get the celestial North Pole and the celestial South Pole. Then what is meridian? Now, meridian is actually a great circle which passes through both the celestial poles, and the observer's zenith and nadir is called a meridian. Okay. Then you can see in the picture celestial equator. Now, what is the celestial equator? Now, if we expand the Earth's equator in all the directions indefinitely, then this equator penetrates the celestial sphere, and this circle is called as celestial equator. Right? It is same as the Earth's equator. So Earth's equator and celestial equator are same. And the last remaining is ecliptic. Now, what is ecliptic? Now, ecliptic is the earth moves around the sun, but if we see from the earth, the sun appears to move along a circle on the celestial sphere. Now, the circle which describes the apparent motion of the sun is called the ecliptic. So, these are the few important terms which you should know when you are going for sky watching. Zenith, nadir, celestial poles, meridian, celestial equator and ecliptic. Now, what is sky and what is space? I had already explained you that when we stand in an open space and we look at the sky, we see numerous stars in the sky. Now, the portion of Earth's atmosphere beyond which we can see like a roof is called as the sky. We feel that the sky is the roof of the earth, right? So the roof is called as the sky. What is space? Space is the empty place between the planets, stars in the sky is called as space. And it contains gas and dust particles, and the numerous stars also, they form clusters in the space. Now, just for your information, it is given that sun, moon and stars, they're seen to rise in east and set in the west because our earth rotates from the west to the east. But if we observe it carefully, then we will notice that stars, they rise and set 4 minutes earlier every day. That is, they move fast by 4 minutes every day. So the example is given, if a star rises at 8 p.m. tonight, it will rise 4 minutes earlier, that is, it will rise at 7:56 tomorrow. Right? So this happens due to the motion of the earth around the sun and that of the sun around the earth. Now, what precautions should be taken, or what are the conditions which should be observed when you are going for sky watching? Okay. Now, first is the place for sky watching should be away from the city, and it should be as far as possible from the city. Then we have to use binoculars or telescopes to watch the sky. And when we are watching the sky, when we go for sky watching, first thing is that we should identify the pole star. Why? Because when we identify the pole star becomes the reference point for the sky watch. And as the stars in the west set early, sky watching should always begin with stars in the west because they will set early. So we should always start with the west. Now, in maps, the east and west are shown to the right and left respectively in a sky map. So the north and south are towards the bottom and top of the map respectively. So this is why the sky map is to be held overhead. So we have to hold the sky map in such a way that the direction we face is at the bottom side. Students, just to inform you, few years back, we used to have sky watching program in our school. But due to some reasons, we have stopped having this activity. Otherwise, the students which have passed from our school, they have enjoyed the sky watching many a times from our school building. To start with the constellations. Students, have you visited Nehru Planetarium? If you have visited Nehru Planetarium, you might have seen that 3D show which they have, in which they show the different constellations, all the constellations in that show. So, what are these constellations? The constellations are group of stars which occupy a small portion of the celestial sphere. And these group of stars, they form certain figures of animals, of humans or objects. And these figures, they are named after certain events, or there are certain beliefs of that times when these constellations were identified. And thus there are 88 constellations as per the Western observers. But our ancient astronomers, they had put forward the idea of 12 zodiac signs, whereas Indian astronomers suggested the 27 nakshatras. Okay, so first we will go through the constellations. The very first one is zodiac sign. Now students, in the previous slide I had explained you about the ecliptic. The circle which describes the apparent motion of the sun around the earth is called as the ecliptic. Now the ecliptic is imagined to be divided into 12 equal parts, and each part is called a Rashi or the zodiac sign. And you can read the names: Virgo, Leo, Cancer, Gemini, Taurus, Aries, Pisces, Aquarius, Capricorn, Sagittarius, Scorpius and Libra. So these are the 12 zodiac signs. Then there are 27 nakshatras, right? Now as you know that the moon completes one revolution around the earth in approximately 27.3 days. Now the portion which is traversed by the moon in one day, okay, which is covered by moon in one day, is called as a nakshatra, right? Now a nakshatra is known as the brightest star, and it is called as Yogtara. The Yogtara. Now, which nakshatra we can see during a sky watch depends upon the position of the earth along its orbit. Now here are the pictures of some of the zodiac signs. The first one is Saptarshi. Saptarshi, Sapt means 7, because the 7 stars, they form a kite-like figure which is called as Saptarshi or the Great Bear. Now as I said, there are 7 stars, a group of 7 stars, and they form a shape of quadrangle with a tail which is made up of 3 stars, which you can very clearly see in the picture. Now if we extend one side of this quadrangle, it reaches the pole star, and that is why during the explanation of sky watching I said that first of all, for sky watching we have to identify the pole star, right? Then the next one is Sharmishta or Cassiopeia. And Sharmishta, they both are very useful in locating the pole star. Sharmishta is made up of 5 stars and Saptarshi is made up of 7 stars. Now the pole star, it has Saptarshi on one side and Sharmishta on the other. So as Sharmishta sets, Saptarshi rises. Thus we are never able to see both these together. We can only see either one, that is either Sharmishta or Saptarshi. Then next is Mrug Nakshatra or Orion. Now it has very bright stars, and they are very, very clearly seen on the winter nights. It has a group of 7 to 8 stars, and they are at the corners of a quadrangle. And if we pass the line through the middle stars of the constellation, they meet a very bright star which is called as Vyad or Sirius. As you can see, Vyad or Sirius and the Brooke or Orion. Then the next one is Vrishchik or Scorpio. If you carefully observe this figure, it looks like a Scorpio. In Hindi, it is called as Bichu, right? So this Vrishchik or Scorpio is a constellation which has around 10 to 12 stars. And the star that is Jyeshtha or Antares, that is the brightest star in the group of Vrishchik or Scorpio. As you can see in the picture also, Antares or Jyeshtha is the brightest star in the group of stars which form Vrishchik or Scorpio. And this constellation Vrishchik is just below the equator and it is in the southern hemisphere. Okay, so this was all about the constellation. Now here in this picture, in the first picture, you can see a girl who is looking at the flower pot and there are trees in the background. So when she is looking at the flower pot, she is also seeing the trees which are in the background. Now similarly, when we observe the sun, we not only look at the sun, we also look at the constellation which is behind the sun. Now, as the earth keeps on changing the position, the different constellations or the zodiac signs or the rashis, they appear behind the sun. See, with the help of this picture, you can very clearly see the sun is in the center and ABC is the position of the earth, and these different constellations are present in the hemisphere. So as the earth is moving, the constellation changes. When the earth is at A position, the Scorpio constellation is seen. But when it moves to B position, it sees the Libra. When it will move to C, it will see Virgo. And so on, Leo, Cancer, Gemini, Taurus, Aries, Pisces, Aquarius, Capricorn, Sagittarius will be seen as the earth rotates around the sun. So dear students, with this we finish with the explanation of the last lesson of science syllabus, and I hope you all had completed the workbook exercise till lesson number 19. Now in the next video lecture, I'll be sending you the workbook exercise of this very last lesson, and please keep completing your workbooks. Thank you students. Take care. Bye.